Okay, and then kind of our last lesson of the unit. This one can be an intimidating problem. I do set up the table for you because it's a little bit different. It's a distance, speed, time table, but then it's totally different. So I have that set up, and you're also going to need your math pop-a calculator. If ever you needed one, it'd be on this problem right here. So let's read what we got. You ride your bike to a store. The trip there is 4 miles. With no wind, you can ride at a speed of 10 miles per hour, but there is wind, okay? The trip there and back takes 1 hour. What's the speed of the wind? So we have to find the mph of the wind. And this right here, it can be confusing. Now let's look at the distance. So that's just miles. Well, 4. And that's one way. And then the other way would also be 4. Use common sense, okay? When you go to one place, it's the same distance back. And then the total distance is 8. You don't really use the 8 for anything, but... Now for your speed, you're not going to have anything here, okay? I delete that box. Now your speed's in miles per hour, and that's 10, okay? However, there's wind. You don't know the speed of the wind, okay? When you go somewhere with wind, you get to add that speed onto your speed, which you can do. When you're going against wind, you have to subtract the speed of the wind because you would be going that much slower. Now, it's very important you leave those alone. You cannot write x plus 10 and x minus 10. Well, the plus wouldn't really matter, but the minus is not commutative. Okay, if I take two numbers and minus them and then flip the order, I don't get the same answer. You need to have your speed and still minus the x. It can't be flipped around. This is your one warning for that. Okay, if you have them x plus 10, x minus 10, the whole problem's screwed up. Okay, now I can forget about the 10. Now time, that's hours. Now I actually see something for time. There and back is 1 hour. That's your total time, so put a 1 here. Now I know what some of you might be thinking at first glance. You might be thinking, oh, so it'd just be 0.5 and 0.5. No, it wouldn't be. Because it takes longer to get there against the wind than it does with the wind. So the times are not the same. Okay, they tell you what they are together, but you can't say it's a half and a half. Okay, now put the 1 kind of small. So what you fill these in for time is use your distance speed ratio. So you have 4 over 10 plus x on one way, and then 4 over 10 minus x the other way. And then you have an equation from the bottom, equals one way plus the other way equals 1. So far you're like, well, this doesn't seem that hard. Well, here's a problem. You have 3 ratios actually because this 1 has an empty denominator, so that's 3, okay? So you're going to have to do this the way with the 3 ratios, okay? And then LCD. Now, the top can just stay the same, 4, 4, and 1. But you got to take a look at the bottoms. When you have a plus, I want parentheses or you're in trouble. You put minus, put in parentheses. Now, those would not be able to be factored. You don't need to use the scratch paper to rewrite them because the GCF would just be 1, and there can't be differences of perfect squares because this does have a minus, but our x isn't to the second power, okay? So, with our LCD, we take the parentheses factor 10 plus x and the parentheses factor 10. So I just drop these down first, okay? They can't be rewritten through factoring because we discussed that. The GCF's 1 and it wouldn't be DOPS on either, okay? And that's empty. So LCD, we got the parentheses 10 plus x and the parentheses of 10 minus x. Those are kind of the only 2 factors you need to worry about, but they are different. So 10 plus x, I got 1, I got 0, and 0. So raise the second and third by a factor of 10 plus x in parentheses. Okay, now how about 10 minus x? Well, I don't have any there. I have 1 here and 0 here. So I need to raise the first and third up by a factor of 10 minus x. That already has one. I don't need to, if it already has it, you don't mess around on that ratio. Okay, now what's the rule? Cancel the bottoms. Now you will need Math Papa here. So you got 4. You can if there's a parentheses after, you can just go to the parentheses. If you want to go times, it's shift 8. 10 minus x. Close it. And then add 4. And then parentheses. 10 plus x. That just gives me 80. Now I'm going to explain why that's 80. Because 4 times 10 is 40. Okay, 4 times 10 is 40. That's 80. Now we'd have a negative 4x and a positive 4x, which would cancel. Now let's look here. This is going to be somewhat simple too. So you got a factor of 1. And then parentheses 10 plus x. And then another parentheses factor of 10 minus x. Now that's negative 1x to the second. Remember, you got to get the negative, okay? Plus 100. Now the reason that is so simple is because, remember, these are conjugates. We have the same thing, just one's positive, one's negative. So I would really just have to, I know the middle two cancel out. So that's 100. That'd be negative 1x squared, okay? So that's how that works. Now, you see x second, you're like, crap, I have to factor. No, you don't, because you have x second only. You're just going to get rid of that 100, divide by negative 1, and then find the square root of whatever that is. So I minus 100. That's negative 20x to the second, or negative 20, sorry. Equals negative 1 times x to the second. Then I undo the multiplier, negative 1 through division. So 20 equals x to the second. Then to find what number times itself is 20, we just need to find the square root of 20. It's just a regular square root. I don't need to put a number in the index if it's a 2. Okay. So the square root of 20 is 4.47. Okay, so that's approximately the wind speed. Now there would be a negative answer to the equation, but this is a story problem, so I just go with the positive. Okay, I'm going to do 2 more. Plane flies 1,850 miles from San Francisco to LA. It takes 7.75 hours to fly there and back. The airplane flies at a rate of 480 miles per hour if there's no wind. However, there is wind that is blowing today. Find the speed of the wind. Okay, so distance, that's just the miles. So it's 1,850 one way, it's 1,850 miles back, and then you can either double it or just add it to itself. Because miles are constant. You're not going to move the city and have the miles different. So forget that. Now speed, 480 miles per hour. So it's 480 one way, 480 back, but the wind's blowing. So that causes you to add the wind speed one place and minus the wind speed from 480 the other way. Okay, now the time it takes 7.7 miles there and back. So we want to put that kind of small, okay? However, again, you can't just divvy that up by 2 because it takes less time this way with the plus than it does with the minus. So I have to use my distance divided by speed ratio to fill out the time it takes for one way and then the other way. They look really very similar, but they're not. Okay, underline that, and that's empty. So then what we have is an equation that involves 3 ratios. So if I have to solve for x out of 3 ratios, make these 3, and we come up, write an LCD there. Do the LCD on top so you don't clutter your works area. Okay, the tops stay the same. They always do. It wouldn't even matter if you have a parentheses on top. You would just leave it the same. It wouldn't even matter if you could factor it on top. Leave it the same. Now with the plus, that's a parentheses factor, and that's another parentheses factor. But those are in simplest form. Okay, you can't, if you do go to a scratch paper, it's a waste of time. There's the GCF's 1. There are no DOPs, okay, because there are only 2 terms. So our LCD factors, we just are going to drop those down. We're not going to rewrite them. Okay, so LCD, I got 480 plus X, parentheses, and 480 minus X. Okay, so 480 plus X, I got 100. Okay, we need to raise them all up to 1. So parentheses 480 plus X times 480 plus X. Then 480 plus X times 480 plus X. Didn't give myself a lot of room there. Now everything has one factor of 480 plus X. Now 480 minus X, I got 0, 1, 0. So 480 minus X, and then bring that factor also has to be on the top. If you bring a new factor to the bottom, you got to bring it. Now, again, this one already has a 480 minus X, so don't mess around. And then times 480 minus X, and then I'll just make that up there, 480 minus X. Okay, now the bottoms are all identical. Okay, they all have the same 2 factors, so we can forget about the bottoms. Okay. Okay, now this side we got 1,850. And then parentheses 480 minus X. Plus 1850. Parentheses 480 plus X. Close it. You get 1 million, because this is a plane, so you're dealing in large quantities of miles, 776,000. Okay, now again, the other way, I take 7.75 parentheses 480 plus X, close the parentheses. And then another parentheses, 480 minus X, close that parentheses. Negative 7.75X to the power of 2 plus 1,785,600. Okay. Now, I know that looks kind of intimidating, but you got to remember, you have x squared, but that's the only type of x you have. It's not like you have an x to the second and then an x to the first where you have to move everything and do all the factoring. No, just undo the plus by minusing that crap. 785, 600. 1776000 minus 1785600. Negative 9,600 equals negative 7.75x to the second. And then we need to divide. So negative 9,600 divided by negative 7.75 is 1,024. Okay. 1,239. So 1,239 equals x to the second. Now to undo a power, we square root. Now I don't need a special root because the index is just 2. So I got to find the square root of 1,239. Okay, 35. So the speed of the wind is 35 miles per hour. Okay, and then the last one. You're going to do the one on the back on your own. A plane travels on a flight that is 600 miles one way. The trip there and back took 4 hours. Now, without wind, the plane can travel 400 miles per hour. Find the speed of the wind. Okay, so distance, 600 miles one way, 600 the other, and be 1,200 the back. You don't really use the 1,200 for anything, but it's true that it would be 1,200. Okay, now the speed's 400 miles per hour, so 400, but you got to remember there's wind. So you add x to one way, and then you subtract it the other way. Now, it doesn't matter where you minus x and plus x because you have the same distance, okay? So it's not like that's a big deal. But one's plus x, one's minus x. Okay, now the time it took there and back's 4. Put a little 4. And it's not 2 and 2, sorry, because it takes you shorter this way. So we write 600 over 400 plus x. Then it does this way. This is going to be longer because I'm going against the wind. Okay, my speed's not as fast. Okay, plus equals, boom. Okay, again, 3 ratios. We need to make the 3 new ones, and then put your LCD on top. Now let's fill out what we can. The tops always just stay the same, even if there were parentheses, even if they could be factored. I would just keep the top the same. Now the bottom, plus parentheses, minus parentheses. Now look at those. I don't think you can factor them. They're 2 terms each. The GCF would be just 1 on each of them, and they're not perfect squares because the x isn't even to the second power. Okay, so you're just going to drop those down. Okay, now my LCD, I just have these 2 to worry about, okay? So, parentheses 400 plus x, and parentheses 400 minus x. So on 400 plus x, I have 1 factor here, I have 0 here, and I have 400 plus x there, okay? Remember, a minus x isn't the same as a plus x. So we need to raise the second and third so they have 1 factor of that. So times 400 plus x times 400 plus x. Then same here. 400 plus x times 400 plus x. Okay, now 400 minus x. I have 0 of those here. I have 1 of them here. And I don't have any here. Okay, so everything needs a factor of a parentheses of 400 minus x. So times 400 minus x times 400 minus x. Okay, then here times 400 minus x, and then times 400 minus x. Okay. All right, now the bottoms are all the same. They all have the same exact identical contents. Okay, same parentheses, same numbers, same signs. That can be canceled. Okay, now let's plug this in. So I have 600 parentheses 400 minus x plus 600 parentheses 400 plus x. 480,000. Okay, and then over here you got to take 4 times 400, the quantity 400 plus x times the quantity 400 minus x. Okay, I get negative 4x a second plus 640,000. Okay, so all we need to do is get the x second by itself so we can find the square root. So I need to minus and divide before I do that. Actually, I changed my mind. I'm going to do all these on video. Negative 160,000 equals negative 4x second. Then we need to divide by -4. And that is 40,000, I believe. Then I need to find the square root of 40,000. Okay, 200. Wow, that's like a hurricane. Okay, my bad on that.